your crypto. We're going to make crypto work for you. What did you think of that?
Well, I'm glad to see President Trump's for innovation in the United States. We want the U.S. to be a leader in financial technology, just like we have in other forms of technology, particularly as we look at the future of the internet, Web3, and blockchain. He also said that he was not supportive of a U.S. Central bank digital currency, which I think is a good position. I prefer the private sector leading in payments, and that's why we're still working on a payment stablecoin bill that will let the private sector here lead in that manner on a dollar-backed payment stablecoin.
It's interesting just to see even former President Trump change gears on this, because he was a skeptic originally. Were you a skeptic originally too?
Well, I've always said that I think blockchain has tremendous ability to take out frictional costs in financial services and other forms of the economy. And I think that the concept of a tokenized payment through a payment stablecoin makes sense inside certain applications on a blockchain. That doesn't make me per se someone that would think that Bitcoin is a store of value. Not making that argument, but I am arguing that the U.S. needs the right regulatory framework for digital assets so that venture capitalists, innovators, investors, and consumers can feel like we've got the right regime for innovation in the future of blockchain and Web3 innovation.
Andrew, good to be with you. Well, look, for the last couple of years, we've worked on a bicameral and bipartisan basis on bills that would enhance our digital assets ecosystem. One on payment stablecoins legislation that Patrick McHenry and Maxine Waters have worked on, and FIT 21 that we passed last week, overwhelmingly 279 yes votes, including 71 Democrats. So that in and of itself sends a major signal to the Senate that we've got good text, we've got bipartisan support, and I think that should incent Senators Loomis and Gillibrand, Stabenow and Bozeman, four members that have worked extensively on understanding this topic, to collaborate with us on a bicameral partnership to pass this bill.
Where do you stand on this? I don't know how much you've been focused on this Ether ETF, but in the investment world, that has become the game, at least over the last month, in terms of when that will happen, what the SEC is going to do. Do you have a position on it?
Well, I'm supportive of the SEC going through the same process they did when they looked at, under both Chairman Clayton and Chairman Gensler, approving a Bitcoin ETP. They're following that same process. They had a setback in federal court that I think sped up their analysis. Plus, they determined that the cash market and the futures market seem to be in good correlation. I think that'll enhance the assessment of Ether and put it on slightly a shorter time frame than we saw in the Bitcoin process.
All right, move over Bitcoin. Here comes Ethereum. That's right. In the past month, Ethereum has rallied more than 17% versus 6.5% for Bitcoin. The question, though, is what's driving it and where does it go from here? Had to bring in Pomp Investments investor Anthony Pompliano. And Pomp, what the heck is going on now? By the way, I did read, I think it was last week, you had a headline. It sounded a little ominous about these Ethereum ETFs. Are you a fan or not?
Well, I think that Wall Street's just woken up to the fact that they can make money in this sector now, right? If you look back 3, 4, 5 years ago, they were all saying, we don't like Bitcoin, we don't like crypto. Right. Now they realize there's profits here. And so they're going to continue to push not only to get the Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, but they're going to try to go through this full stack. And the question is, what will regulators allow? How many are they going to approve? How many coins are going to be on Wall Street by the end of this year?
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like you don't want too many. You don't want some of the lower end coins. Well,
just think Bitcoin, I think, is this unique thing that has a very clean story, right? It's a store of value. When you get into these other things, they're technology platforms. So now you start talking about what's the difference between Facebook, Amazon, Google, et cetera. They're all competing for different kind of aspects of the consumer. And so I think when you look at Ethereum, Solana, and many others, they're tech platforms competing with each other. And so the story just isn't as clean as Bitcoin exclusively.
Something else has changed here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Former President Trump has really been like, hey, I'm down. I like Bitcoin. And I feel like a lot of Democrats, not necessarily the president himself, but a lot of Democrats are starting to change their tune a little bit, maybe fearful of losing that young vote.
There's 50 plus million Americans that hold these assets. And so if you're going to basically concede the fact that the Republican Party is going to be pro-crypto and you're going to take an anti-crypto stance, you can kiss those 50 million votes goodbye, most likely. People for centuries have been voting with their pocket. Who is best for what I can do financially? And crypto is just the latest manifestation of that. And so I think that Trump really changed the game. He forced the hand of politicians on both sides of the aisle. If you don't embrace this, you are now setting yourself up to be in the crosshairs of these crypto voters. And I think that people finally realize not only are they passionate, it's a large group, and they're willing to go out to the ballot box, and that's going to change how politicians treat this asset class.
Got less than 30 seconds ago. Speaking of adoption, another company is making this their key treasury asset.
Look, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy pioneered this. There's now, 5 different companies around the world that I'm aware of. I always say that 1 does it, it's a dot. 2, it's a line. 3, it's a trend. And so I think that we're going to see many, many more do this over the coming years.
I got to tell you, Saylor, I mean, you have to tip your hat to him.
He did a fantastic job.
Do. He's done a fantastic job. He put his money where his mouth is, really, and it's worked out so far pretty good for him.
Made a couple $1 billion.
Couple. All right. Soon he'll catch you, my man. Talk to you again real soon.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Representative French Hill on Donald Trump and Bitcoin. Now he's accepting. And no CBDCs. But guys, we know the central banks, the BIS, have already not only planned out CBDCs, have the platform, and they are ready to go. And then also stablecoins. But of course, they're going to push stablecoins in the United States, but then just peg them to a CBDC. Remember, once you bring people to their knees, they'll accept anything. Remember, the NWO caused the problem, wait for the reaction, and run in with the solution that they had 20 years ago. And that's these digital assets and all these machines. And we know how powerful blockchain is. Blockchain is recording everything. And it gives the NWO the all-seeing eye. And we know Chainlink is bringing all that information over to Swift. So therefore, Swift will be able to know you better than you know yourself. And crypto regulation is moving along this year. And we know the United States is going to be flipping that switch next year. And because the BRICS nations are getting off the dollar, the budget has to be done next year. And remember I told you, because we have all this debt, the only thing you have to do is turn it into equity and then hand out the free money. And we know they're going to be able to airdrop that free money. But little do the people know it's going to be programmable, telling you what, when, when, and how to buy. And you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. So it doesn't matter who gets in the office, Trump or Biden. We know the people are going to be happy because we saw this in 2020. Remember, guys, you're living a simulation. And we have pumps saying that Wall Street can make money in this sector. Guys, the big banks and big corporations, these hedge funds, have been in crypto from the beginning. Who you think been pumping and dumping? It's definitely not the retail investor. And we know when it comes to all these projects, the only thing you have to do is go back, look at the funding rounds. I used to educate every single video back when I first started. The only thing you have to do is follow the money. And the big money has been coming from the big banks and big corporations. They've been funding this sector from the beginning. But in order for these digital assets to rise, these small and medium-sized banks have to fall. And that affects small business. And of course, we get mass layoffs. But Jerome Powell already stated he expected more consolidation in the space. And then also, these commercial loans are going to cause a lot of trouble for these small and medium-sized banks. And guys, every time you turn around when it comes to inflation, they always want to play the Hegelian dialectic. They always want to take something out. Rent, insurance, food. I thought that's something that you had to have. It is absolutely ridiculous. And we have McDonald's feeling the pain, trying to bring in these $5 meals. But guys, who wants this space food? Not me. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And then we have, can Nvidia hit $10 trillion market cap? If it does, we'll be in the metaverse. There's no reason why we should have $1 trillion market cap. That makes no sense whatsoever if you understand math. The $2 trillion market cap they have now doesn't make any sense. So especially if it goes to 10 trillion, it definitely don't make any sense. These trillion-dollar market caps, this showing the monopoly, the fall of an empire. America to Babylon falls with the United States world reserve currency and the rise of China, the dragon with that digital yuan backed by that digital SDR. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Into our conversation intently and with interest. And I'm wondering how you assess sort of the exposure the economy could have if this is in fact the next so-called shoe to drop.
Right. Well, look, we saw shoes dropping last year, with Silicon Valley Bank and some others. Of course, that was more being upside down on their treasury securities, and it created a ripple. But, the Fed and the authorities intervened and prevented it from becoming a crisis. What's interesting is that a couple of months ago, after one of the FOMC meetings at the podium, Powell, when asked, actually said that he expects that there's going to be regional bank failures this year. So he knows that this game is not over. The question is, how can they smooth the transition, when these regional banks start to fail? And of course, we'll see more consolidation, so on and so forth. Well, the market-based inflation expectations have been basically stable for 3 years. I mean, I think the 5-year and 10-year tips break-evens have been stuck around 2.3%. That's nothing to be concerned about. But, when you talk about U.S. inflation, I mean, firstly, it's a lagging indicator. I'm very concerned that the Fed is busy chasing lagging and contemporaneous indicators. And what's holding up the U.S. inflation rate, over and beyond the fact that we had this bump up in insurance rates, whether it was autos or whether it was home or health insurance this year, which is nothing the Fed can really control, what's been holding it up for the most part is owner's equivalent rent. And, what's interesting is that when you look at the U.S. inflation numbers and you put it consistently with how they do it in Europe, because Europe does not have OER, the underlying inflation rate in the United States is 1.9%. And yet nobody talks about it, I guess, except for me. Certainly the Fed doesn't. So a lot of it's going to depend, and Powell talked about this, is how painstakingly slow it's been for the rental numbers, especially OER, which is 27% of the index, to start to soften up. But that's really, your inflation story for this year has been insurance, and it's been the rental numbers. Outside of that, there was no inflation in the data.
McDonald's is using this as a national marketing campaign to try and bring customers back into the stores. You have seen guest count face a little pressure. What do you think about the plan overall?
Well, we've certainly seen guest count pressure in terms of fewer customers coming to restaurants in general. And those that do come into the restaurants are spending less money than they were spending before. So taking a page out of our long storied history in the world of McDonald's, we've always been a leader in value. And sometimes as a franchisee like myself, you have got to invest in margin. And so we're going to do that precisely this summer with the launch of not only the $5 meal deal, but a revamping of the national value platform. There are many, many franchisees across the country in their local advertising co-ops that have executed value in terms of beverage, in terms of food-led value. And the national value communication piece has gotten a little away from us of late. And so we collectively, as a group of McDonald's franchisees and the brand, have decided to come together and launch a very substantive, impactful, inflation-busting value campaign that launches again in literally about four weeks. The margin pressure is extraordinary. It's not just wage. We're talking about massive insurance costs that have gone up in the state of California, if you can get it. Government regulations that sometimes choke the lifeblood and oxygen on a small business entrepreneurship. Obviously, backdoor costs have skyrocketed. Milk, eggs, the cost of beef, chicken. But all of those things combined, I can either just lament the impact to the cost of doing business, or I can get aggressive about growing market share, building my business. That entrepreneurial zest, that drive is what I intend to do with my fellow franchisees in California to fight this horrible legislation and the impact that it's had on our business and our margins.
Yes, and let me remind you that I had said years ago that Nvidia would surpass Apple to become the world's most valuable company. Now it's nipping at its heels. What is going on with Nvidia that is unique from a company like Apple or Microsoft is, as you know, it's fueling the AI infrastructure. This is really important to understand because Hopper architecture drove us to about 90 billion data center revenue. Nvidia is quickly releasing the next architecture. It's called Blackwell. It will be out before the end of this year. That, we think, can bring us to a $200 billion data center by the end of fiscal year 2026, so that's calendar 2025, meaning that this next cadence of generation, which is Blackwell, will equal or slightly exceed Hopper. And there's reasons for that, which is that it will empower and enable trillion-plus parameter large language models, which is exactly where big tech is trying to go. So those components altogether equal a very large hardware data center segment. Then we have software coming, which I could talk at length about, but I won't, I'll be brief. And then the third one is automotive. So we have a lot coming. This is very, very early for NVIDIA, and there's a few layers to it.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate. Not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.